Good morning. Today on Spotlight, the nonpartisan effort to get people out to vote for the November 6th election. Our guests, Terry Barclay, President and CEO of Inform, Reverend Anthony, President of the Detroit branch NAACP, and Betsy Kushma of the Michigan League of Women Voters. And later, we'll hear from some Wayne State University students getting ready to cast a ballot. It's Sunday, October the 28th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is a Spotlight on the News Democracy 2018 Election Special. And welcome to Spotlight. Just a couple weeks to go before people have to cast their ballots. And there's a big effort underway to get people up off their duff, so to speak, and get to the polls or do an absentee ballot. And three people here today to be able to talk about that from a nonpartisan point of view. Terry Barclay, Reverend Anthony, and Betsy Kushma. Thanks for coming in today. Let me start off with a history lesson a little bit from each one of you. All right, Reverend Anthony, NAACP started in, tell me when I'm wrong, 1909. Mm-hmm. Three founders, W.E.B. Du Bois, Mary White Covington, and Moorfield Story. W.E.B. Du Bois, educated Fisk University, Harvard University, first African-American to get a PhD there, from an integrated community he grew up in Massachusetts. Mary White Covington, like her middle name, was very white. Moorfield Story was white. Two whites, one African-American. They started the nation's oldest civil rights organization. Do most people realize that?
Well, I think a lot of people do, but maybe more people need to recognize that that was a day, unlike today, in which you had a little more bipartisanship and a little more camaraderie and a little more folk who would recognize the struggle that we were waged in. And at that time, it was a lot more physical, a lot more violent. Black folk were going through the lynchings. We were going through no representation, no rights that folk had to respect. And so you had this metamorphosis of people coming really out of the Niagara movement. That really is what propelled the NAACP. So there were a number of people involved, not only the people that you mentioned, but other folk, the Spingarns, Joel, sure. The William Monroe Trotter, Ida B. Wells Barnett, a whole lot of them were engaged in that. And that was a good thing.
But this was founded on integration.
Right.
It is a nonpartisan organization.
Right.
From that time till today by your bylaws, and it says it's a nonprofit organization that does not endorse candidates or political parties or engage in direct campaigning. And that's for all of its 2,000 some odd affiliates as well. And so that affects you. And so I get that on the table so that people know their history.
Right.
And when people are quick to say, oh no, it's a partisan organization,
right.
It's not.
We're nonpartisan, but we're not non-political. Okay. We're not those who do not engage in specific issues or specific proposals, specific things that deal with our lives. For example, we do endorse proposals. We do support the rights of people to draw their own districts. That's why we are supporting Proposal 2. We are supporting Proposal 3. We are supporting Wayne County Community College. We are voting no on the legalization of marijuana without decriminalization of marijuana for those who are in jail. So we do take those positions. Now, when it comes to candidates, that's another matter.
Right.
But in terms of ballot proposals and initiatives such as that, we all in.
We sometimes go very much to the core of which an organization was founded.
Right.
Terry Barclay, Inform. Give us a little history lesson so people understand your membership.
50-plus-year-old business organization founded in 1962. We're statewide with offices in Detroit and
Grand Rapids to Detroit.
Grand Rapids, and we have 13,000 members and friends. We are a business and women's leadership organization, and we have remained with a steadfast focus on accelerating women's careers and boosting them as they choose their desired course, including running for office.
And I imagine that with all that's going on, all the partisanship and the Me Too movement, you're getting an earful from your membership from Grand Rapids to Detroit.
We really are. I've noticed just amongst our members just a huge uptick in engagement and interest. I think what Me Too and the Kavanaugh hearings, what all of this has highlighted is that women are finding their voice. They're looking for respect, and I think that new presence will not diminish. I think that's here to stay.
Betsy Kushma, the League of Women Voters is all over the country, whether it's state or it's city or it's a particular municipality. A little bit on the history, and you're known by that Voters Guide.
Well, first, we were founded in 1920, and as part of the women's suffrage, we grew out of the women's suffrage movement. And we were founded so that women wanted to say, now that we're going to get the vote, how are we going to use the vote? And wisely, how do we use our vote wisely? And they made the decision early on to stay nonpartisan, to not pick one party or another, or whatever number of parties there are, but to study issues and encourage people to get involved in their government and be informed about the candidates and issues. So we have grown since then. First it was for women, and then they realized everybody needs this information. Right. And so in 1970s, we grew to include men fully in our membership, and yeah. So that we've been in a growing group, because I think people see there's so many ways to get involved in our government, and the League of Women Voters wants you to find the one that encourages you, that speaks to you. And so we do. Voter education is one of our primary things, but we also have the other arm that is our advocacy arm. So today we're talking about encouraging people to get out to vote, and there's ways that the League does that. But we also take positions, I want to mention, on issues we are very much supporting.
Right, not candidates, but issues.
But issues, never candidates, never a party.
All right, we need to get to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about what you're specifically doing 2 weeks before Election Day to get people out to vote and express all of these things that we're hearing. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. Reverend Anthony, a few days ago, you held a press conference. Take your souls to the polls.
Absolutely.
What is the goal?
Take your souls to the polls, Chuck. That's something that we've been doing for years. That's our voter mobilization, education program, and protection program. We'll be going in areas around the city of Detroit, Wayne County, and we're very pleased that both the mayor and Warren County Executive Warren Evans have declared Sunday, November 4th, as Take Your Souls to the Polls Sunday in the county and the city. We're going to areas where there's high voter registration but low voter turnout. We're knocking on doors. We ask people to come back.
These are people, they're already on the list.
Yeah, but they
just haven't been going to vote.
And so we're trying to come back to the polls. We need you. You got to be engaged. We're just very pleased that the numbers are up right now.
Do you have a sense of why they haven't? Is it they don't care? Is it that they haven't had the transportation? They're too busy dealing with the stresses of life? What?
All of the above. Okay. But I just have 3 questions. Number 1, what good is your vote if you don't exercise it? What good is your freedom if you don't protect it? And what good is your voice if you don't use it? All of that is a part of this. Certainly the way that our society is now, the way the division, the rhetoric, that has pushed people away from the polls. But we're saying that your vote does matter. The way the lines are drawn, when we win, we lose. That's why we're opposed to the fact that politicians are deciding how congressional districts should be drawn. People should decide that, and that puts them back into the process. So we're saying take your souls to the polls, come out and help us. You can come out and walk. Walk for freedom, walk for democracy. You can call 313-871-2087 to get involved. Make it a family thing. Everybody has a stake in this. These issues are too critical for us not to be engaged in the voting process. It's about health care. It's about education. It's about your children and your seniors. It's about your pension. It's about all those things. It's about civil rights and human rights. It's about women's rights. It's about those things that we basically respect as a people. It's about the soul of our nation. So if you're not taking your soul to the polls to vote, somebody else is going to take them away from the poll to choke your life.
Terry Barclay, you're constantly involved with women's forums, whether it's an event, it's an education process. I mean, I just hear about all the different events. Is all of this sort of designed to make sure that women are engaged and that all of this expression, angst that we're hearing out here, that they know that there is a place to go take that, and that's when you go vote?
There's no question. I think that what we need more of are places where people can come together and have honest debate and dialogue about the issues and feel safe doing
Agree
that.
to disagree.
Agree
without
to disagree.
the name calling.
Without the name calling, and that's what Inforum works very hard to be, a respected forum where those divergent ideas can come out. But I will say the one thing that our members are united around is the importance of being engaged, the importance of voting, the importance of leaning in, as Sheryl Sandberg says, to the whole process.
Is it your sense that women are going to come out in record numbers this year and 2 years from now?
Well,
regardless of who they vote for?
I believe so. We've seen since 1986 rather, we've seen the proportion of women rising with each election that are voting relative to the proportion of men.
We have more women running for office
we have a
than
record,
ever before.
We have a record number of women running for office, a record number of women who made it through the primaries. And from the conversations that I'm having, even if people are, as you said, disenchanted with the negativity and, well, the increasing violence that is out there, they are committed to having their voice and being part of this process. I think that women are fired up. We'll see.
Don't be intimidated, be motivated.
There you go.
Betsy Cushman, in putting together the guide that you do, how does this process work so that people say it's a fair process, it's a balanced process, it's a nonpartisan process, and I can trust this guide to give me information about the candidates and the issues so that if I take it all in, I can be an informed voter when I step in that poll, or absentee?
We've been doing this for 98 years, one way or another. We encourage people, candidates sometimes will come to our candidate forums that won't come to some other forums because they know the League of Women Voters is going to give them all, treat them all fairly, including minor party candidates. We really believe that everyone deserves that chance to be heard. All candidates need to be heard fairly. And so then our voter guides, vote411.org, I have to say, that is, if you go online, go to vote411.org and put in your home address, and it brings up all the races that are going to be in your area all the way up. And all leagues at different levels do it. But the candidates put in their own words. That's what's so neat about it, is that we don't have to do any editing. Years ago, we had to look for spelling errors. Now it's like they put in whatever they put in. And so you have honest, and so we have candidate forums, we have voter guides, we have paper voter guides that are just, that we have delivered all over the
You've made
state
it
of
as
Michigan.
easy as possible if someone really wants to get the information.
We really want people to learn information because you need all those sources. We also recommend people go to the websites of the candidates and see what they're standing for so that you're voting on issues, not on personality. You're voting on issues of what's important really to you. And we truly, and I want to say a word about young people because we also go out and register.
Hang on one second. I've got to get to a break. When we come back, we'll pick up on that because that's important. That's going to be part of the last segment I want to do. We're going to hear from some young people, but we'll be right back with one more segment with the three of you. We'll be right back. Betsy Cushman, I cut you off. I apologize. You wanted to make a point about young people.
I do, because our future, the youth are our future.
No question
about it. Their voices, they are empowered. Those that we've been able to reach, we've been registering high school students to vote. And in our local league, we did 1,100 in the month of March, and we went to all kinds of schools. And it's lovely to see those young people. They're not turned off when you talk to them about the issues. They care about what's going on in their communities, then you can see those eyes go from looking down to like, oh, that's me, you know. It is really rewarding. Young people are engaged if you can keep them engaged. They are really ready. They are all over this city and this
part of that
country.
is our
Yeah,
responsibilities as adults and how we bring them up.
We do.
You know, taking them to the polls
Absolutely.
even before they can vote.
Yes.
So
Bring
you
them
know, we do
along.
it with driving.
Absolutely.
You know, how excited are kids by the time they get 16 to get behind that wheel? Well, they've been watching us for how many years drive.
Right.
And if we did the same thing with voting, you know.
It's empowering. They need to, yeah, I think they're learning that.
Right. That's part of the reason we started the Take Your Souls to the Polls campaign, because young people wearing big gym shoes, turnaround caps, hip-hop artists, bringing them back to the polls. Your souls walk to the polls. Older folk, your soul, your heart, your spirit. S-O-L-E-S, BAM, S-O-U-L-S, BAM. So that's something for everybody. The millennials, you have a stake in this election. You have a stake in health care. You have a stake in education. You have a stake in civil rights. Look at who just got appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. You have a stake in judges who are being appointed around the nation for federal courts for lifetime terms. This is personal. Your insurance is personal. The fact that you need jobs is personal. You can't go to the jobs high. I don't care what you think relative to marijuana. You can't go like that. This is not the same kind of marijuana that it was when we went to college. It's much higher. THC is much higher. Candy should not be used to entice our children. That's why we go to the polls. We want you to have good representation. One of you may want to be congressperson. That's why the lines have to be drawn correctly. That's why we're saying vote yes on that issue. You should be able to attend Wayne County Community College, one of the highest attended colleges in the country. That's why we're saying support that. That's why we're saying make sure that you take your souls to the polls. You can call us at 313-871-2087. Get involved. Go to our webpage, DetroitNAACP.org. Make it a family thing. Do a walk for freedom. It's about you. Take your souls to the polls and don't stay at home and be alone.
Terry Barclay, is it your sense? You can tell he's a
I love
minister.
it.
We're a big congregation, too. Terry, we have seen everything just in this last week, from immigration, protests, and people headed possibly to the United States coming from Mexico, to potential bombs being mailed to public officials, past and present. All of this is feeding into this atmosphere that we have, in a very partisan atmosphere in this country. But I heard someone say the other day that we may be just about to the point of reaching the wall, and maybe America will start to come back to the center again, where we can agree to disagree. Are you getting that sense, or are we a long way from there?
Oh, I'm definitely getting that sense, Chuck, and I just have to laugh. You know, one of my favorite World War II movies that my dad and I used to watch together was Tora, Tora, Tora. One of my favorite lines from that movie was from the Japanese admiral, who said, "I fear we have awakened a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve." What I'm seeing happening now is people are beyond upset about this. They're filled with resolve. And the right to vote is one of the most important.
Do people get too complacent in this country?
Oh, well, of course. Of course they do. But I think, I agree with that sentiment, that I think that we're at a tipping point. The right to vote is one of the most precious rights we have. In August of 2020, we will be coming up on the 100th anniversary of women winning that right, and they're going to exercise it.
All right. Terry Barclay, Reverend Anthony, President of the Detroit branch NAACP, Terry with Inform, and Betsy Kushma with the League of Women Voters, the Michigan League of Women Voters. Thank you so much for coming in. When we come back, we're going to hear from some young people I interviewed, students at Wayne State University, and the excitement that they're anticipating. We'll be right back. Stay with us. All sorts of races and television ads are bombarding you, radio ads, print ads. Are you paying much attention to this year's political season?
I think so. I mean, some of the ads are pretty catchy. Fix the damn roads comes to mind. That was a really catchy one, and it's very true here in Michigan.
How many times have you voted? You're 21?
Yes.
Okay. So you're a relatively new voter.
Relatively new, yeah.
Yeah. How important is voting to you?
It's super important, I think, especially because women didn't always have the right to vote, and people in other countries might not always have the right to vote. Plus, it can affect issues that affect everyone, like the roads. If you drive, or even if you take the bus, something like the roads will affect everyone. So it's not just candidates, but certain special issues too.
Is there a sense, you think, among young voters that they don't want to be involved, or they do want to be involved because they want to change what they currently see?
I think there's a great sense that people want to change what they currently see. I think they know that the times that we're living in are different than the times of our parents, and legislation that is currently in place isn't moving quick enough with the times, or keeping up with our technology, or just what younger people are like hoping for in the future.
Voting makes a difference?
Oh, definitely. I don't know how else you would change things if you didn't vote. This is a system that we put in place in order to make a difference, and each person, no matter, well, if you're 18 to no matter how old, doesn't matter what income level or anything, that's how you can make change and be a part of it.
Do you have much conversation with your friends about voting and the importance of voting?
Yeah, I'm that guy that really tries to promote it. A lot of my friends
Are they receptive?
I wish they were more receptive. I'll say this, they are receptive, they just don't follow through.
Why not?
Laziness. A lot of times it's lack of understanding of politics. There's a lot of noise. Because I'm a journalism major, I have to have a firm understanding of politics, so I don't even need to study up on the candidates because it's part of my job to know the candidates, so I just go out to the polls and vote. But for them, they have to study and they have to know what's going on. It's work.
Yeah, and they're pretty busy trying to get their studies done.
Yeah. But again, my opinion is there's no excuse, because democracy only works if everybody's involved, and if not everyone's engaged, the system does crack.
Special thanks to all of my guests today. Don't forget, Election Day is Tuesday, November the 6th. You can also request an absentee ballot up until 2 p.m. on November 3rd by mail, or in person by 4 p.m. on November the 5th. You must return all of them by November the 6th. And also remember to go to WXYZ.com for our Democracy 2018 Voter Guide. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.